Mobile list. Mình quên là top one now. Mình đã. I'm gonna try and compete next year. Yeah. Continue. Swing. Yum. Do. What a minute left. I think no yours in this. I think no yours in this one. Because he was playing yesterday. I didn't even know Noyo was playing. Nine, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Woo! You know what time it is, Fortnite fam. It's time for Heat 2 of the FNCS. Welcome back. We hope you've had a fantastic day so far. If you tuned into EU, you got some incredible action in Fortnite. But now it's time for NA. We need to step up. We need to get more names qualified through to next weekend's finals. It's FNCS time, baby!
I'm going to qualify for the next one. I'm going to try.
Kelly. It's great to see you, Vivid. How are you guys doing? Heat number 2 is here.
I mean, after yesterday, I am doing so great, Zeke. We had such exciting games going on, and I'm sure for today it is going to be the exact same situation, Vivid. 15 more teams making their way through.
Yeah, we had teams clutching up in the last game of the day in heat number 1, and I could imagine that we're going to be action-packed here today. Very excited to kind of see how everything pans out and secure 15 more players into this grand finals.
That's right, Vivid. So much to look forward to, some big names. Why don't we start easy, right? Let's start with some of the numbers. Yesterday, you kind of gave us a session summary. We have to look at some of the stats of the duels we'll be seeing in today's heat. Run us through the numbers for this heat.
I mean, pretty comparable to what we kind of saw in heat number 1. Spoiler, if you want to see these numbers change dramatically, tune in tomorrow because we're going to be showcasing the same thing. But for today, heat number 2 FNCS Finals appearance is going to be a total of 285, 19 total FNCS wins across the board. But once again, that overarching thing jumping over into major number 2. New duos. Yesterday, we saw in heat number 1 that 41 new duos kind of entering the stage there. 40 here today. And this pretty much means that any of our teams that kind of formulated for major number 2 basically did not play major 1 together. So a bunch of changes have pretty much happened on the region, which is kind of no surprise when you take a look at what's actually on the line. But Kelly, I think the thing that stands out the most, and it's kind of been the theme in major number 1 and major number 2 now, is that there are so many players kind of making it to these heats that have never made it to an FNCS Finals board. 59.
I would like to make up the
And I know we always talk about how
FNCS final,
especially in NAC, where it seems like it's always the same duos that come out on top, go to grand finals, make their way to the LAN. But we do have stories like Liam and Jace, who, although they didn't play Major 1 together, Jace only has 1 FNCS Grand Finals performance and also 1 LAN Finals. He was able to do through the second chance qualifier, and I think that there's this story that we kind of overlook just because of how many established veterans we have in the scene, is that there is still opportunities for new players, green players that have not even really been to that many Grand Finals that can still make it to the global stage like what we got to see from Jace.
Yeah, it was just incredible to kind of watch the storyline in major number 1. You don't make it to the finals there, but you make it to the major summit there, and that's when you kind of play in your first finals. They went ahead and picked up 31st place, so not bad. Like Kelly kind of mentioned, right, this is kind of the overarching theme. These newer players are starting to kind of break out into the limelight, but now for Liam and Jace, it's all about keeping the momentum going, right? Okay, you guys made it all the way to the summit lane. You guys got that experience, probably the most heart-racing kind of event that you could have possibly played at. Now we're settling back in, we're back online, so I'm going to be looking towards Liam and Jace to kind of continue on with how well they have been playing.
That's sick. I love the call out of the experience, right? Because it looks easy, right? You know, on camera, you're like, oh yeah, these players just playing in front of their computers in a stadium. It's not that big a deal, right? Contextually, some of the most pressure you can be under, right, Kelly?
I love that you bring that up, because if we go back many chapters ago, there is a young Peterbot that came out winning with Hyla and then goes to LAN and has actually a pretty poor performance. Obviously, that is not the situation anymore, but you can have these incredible players, but once they go to LAN, jitters is a real thing. Being able to perform in front of thousands of people is so different than playing at home.
Absolutely. Well, friends, as we get ready to dive into more, first, let's meet up with our casters, Jacob, PR, MDF. Say what's up.
Thank you so much, Zeke. And honestly, coming into today, we didn't really talk about too much yesterday, but it's the new mythic weapons coming to this season, joining some of the old ones like the mythic striker pump, but it's going to be that mythic pistol at the top side of the map, Monster.
Most definitely, and we know Queasy and Victor V are going to be fighting for this one, and so long as they're not contested here, Jacob, they should have a smooth sailing. It's a great drop, but again, it's the power that the mythic weapons bring to the table that's really going to change the way you're able to play the game, right, and fight with confidence.
Yeah, whether you get it right out of the gates like Victor V and Queasy, or take them down to get it in your hands, if you find yourself on high ground, look at this. They're just melting teams in the backside of the zone. They're picking up key eliminations and essentially keeping themselves alive. But it's not just the pistol, it's the Warforged Mythic AR as well that lands just outside of Sinister Strip, and we saw it in Okus in Zonda's hand yesterday when they qualified.
Yeah, and the gameplay here might be highlighting, of course, the big dogs will be watching tomorrow, but what is important to note is that this weapon here is a game changer. I mean, there's some mythics that are a little bit more powerful than others, so that'll give you a bit of an edge. And this rifle here is definitely one if you want to fight for it.
Yeah, there's a few of them all over the map. You take down bosses, you get those in your inventory. There's also a couple mini games around the map. Shadow and Virgo, uncontested today. They're going to go ahead and play that Duck mini game, get that Mythic Striker pump in their inventory, and that one is going to be a scary sight, right, Zeke?
It is, Jacob. I like that. I like that you bring up Shadow and Virgo. More on them in just a little bit. We wanted to do something fun here. Kelly has highlighted a couple things for us. We wanted to compare some of the duos and like the individual players and their performances leading into today. Kelly, do you maybe want to talk us through some of that?
So we always like to highlight some duos, the big duos that we're going to be seeing compete today, but I think that there has been this overarching trend, especially at the start of Chapter 7, where we have these established veteran players that I would consider people with like 20-plus FNCS Finals performances, picking up kind of newer players and establishing duos with them. Although this first example is probably the least egregious of this, Acorn and Bolts, I think, was kind of one of the first examples that we saw, because we've seen, you know, Acorn and Cold, Acorn and Aegis, we've seen all these established duos, but picking up Bolt, who, again, just has 16 FNCS Finals, he's not necessarily a green player. It does still lead to this kind of trend that's been developing, Vivid.
Yeah, and it has worked out so well for Acorn and Bullets. I mean, you've got the guy on your team who a lot of people have thrown into the hat in terms of names that they think could be one of Fortnite's greatest IGLs ever in Acorn. And you got Bolts, who kind of came onto the scene and has just been seen as this very, very mechanical player. And they have kind of honed in on those roles so well, and it has worked out so good for them here in Chapter number 7. I mean, if you just go ahead and take a look at their straight-up performances, Major number 1, they got 3rd place. At the Summit Land, they got 5th place. It is very, very hard to kind of ignore how well these guys are playing.
That is so sick when you put it like in that context, right? Like, okay, so obviously Acorn and Bolts, we know them, we love them, and their stats, I mean, as you can see, are pretty good. So if this isn't the kind of newcomer, you know, comparison we want to make, Kelly, what is maybe a different comparison we could make? Is it, I mean, what about Aviv? The big cheese Aviv, and maybe, I don't know, Avir?
Well, what's interesting...
Avir,
yeah, we can call them that. I think that's a good team name. So what's interesting with these examples that I'm bringing is that we do have the classic IGL, maybe they're a little bit older and then they pick up a younger fragger. But we also have what we know in this year, that they've been kind of a double fragger in, as far as the team composition goes. And so we also have the established pro, like Aviv, picking up another fragger instead, like Veer. And once again, it kind of brings a new dynamic into the scene. It allows these players like Veer to get the experience with Aviv, but we also know how important it is to have 2 fraggers in the game.
Yep, without a doubt. A bunch of kind of changes are happening amongst the duos as well. A quick little note here of even here, we're not actually playing together for Major number 1. So remember how we kind of talked about it, that it feels like a majority of the lobby is just these new formed duos. This is going to be one of them, right? So the big question here for a lot of these teams that we're going to be talking about is whether or not that experience has kind of come into play. Because obviously they haven't had necessarily as much time to practice as a duo like Acorn and Bolts, who just have been together since the start of the year. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of very, very easy to see the dynamic and experience between a duo like Aviv and Veer, when Aviv has made it to 18 FNCS Finals and Veer has only made it to 5, but it's working out for these guys, 2nd in the play-ins to make it into the heats.
Okay, that's good. That sounds good, right? On paper, it looks good. Remember, we've seen a victory round, or to end the top 10 in consistency feels very achievable for the duo. Let's talk about another duo. How about Mr. Global Champion himself, Queasy, coming on over to NAC, paired up with Victor V. Victor, remember, champion over on NA West side. You know what? I'm taking it to NAC. I'm moved to 0 ping. And now we have this crazy sounding duo. What can we expect from them?
I mean, once again, a bit more reflective to what Acorn and Bolt's like dynamic is. Queasy obviously bringing the experience, 25 FNCS finals, 4 titles to his name, and then of course the reigning champion, as you said, joined by Victor V, who I swear just popped up into the scene, but to see that he has 12 FNCS Grand Finals does go to show just how experienced he is as well. As far as the new performance has gone since they have been teaming up, it's a bit of a mixed bag. They've had some good games, they've had some okay games, but I think as far as today goes in this heat, Queasy and Victor V are definitely going to be coming out on top.
And that mixed bag that you're kind of talking about, I mean, how detrimental does that kind of feel, right? Does that kind of play into the mindset of these two players? So you kind of already mentioned it. Remember, Victor V's kind of picked up a new nickname here, ZPV, Zero Ping Victor, as he kind of moved over from NA West to NA Central to kind of invest everything into this competitive season. On the other side of the duo, it's the same exact story, right? Queasy moves all the way over from EU to kind of join forces with somebody on NAC. So both of these players, when you think about their personal lives and where they got to be living, they're kind of in a new situation. They got to be feeling a little bit uncomfortable. So far, like Kelly mentioned, the duo maybe not necessarily doing as hot as they would have hoped. And with a big move on the line, they've really got to start to pick up the steam.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of this, right, Viv? They had heat number 2 to kind of work out some of those issues, right? If this was the finals, I think I'd be a lot more concerned. But with heat 2, it's fine. We just need a VR. We just need to be top 10 in consistency. Let's not take it to the last chance qualifier. Let's not do that. Let's not get crazy. But hopefully today is a good, I guess, check on how they are doing. Another duo, I guess, from one global champion to another. Let's talk about Nero and Mason. Nero coming back up into the scene, and now we're going to be seeing him compete alongside Mason?
And, you know, I already used the example of Aviv and Fear, but this is definitely another example of the double fragger role coming in. Nero, though, with so much expertise, and everyone just so excited to see him back on the main stage, of course. Could you imagine having a 2026 global champion with Miro? I would love to see it. Miro and Mason doing all right as far as the competition goes, as far as the play-ins are. And honestly, I think that maybe just a little bit of warming up, getting a little bit of practice in, is all they need to be able to establish themselves enough, figure out the little kinks that they need, and make their way into the grand finals.
Yeah, actually, this duo kind of has an interesting storyline in terms of, or regarding the last time that we actually saw them in an FNCS finals. For both of these players, it was actually in Chapter 6 Major 3. So just last year, that last major that kind of happened amongst the trios. Outside of that, yeah, we didn't necessarily get to see them at Globals last year. We didn't see them in Major number 1 kind of make it to the finals, and we did not see them at Summit either. But still, the experience is there. Can Miro kind of bring Mason up to speed and make her run?
Interesting stuff, man. A lot of little storylines here converging in heat number 2. One final duo to talk about. So obviously we've done the kind of comparison game now. We just want to straight up highlight Shadow and Virgo. We saw them back at Summit. We saw them call their shot and then get that victory out on one of the largest stages. So I feel like coming into this, Kelly. Well, actually, you know what, Vivian, I'm gonna go to you.
Yeah, I was about to say, why are you talking to me?
You know what, my bad, Kelly. My fault, obviously, we should be excited, right? They had that experience. They've done this on a larger stage, so I feel like a VR, easily done, right?
I mean, yeah, Shadow and Virgo are definitely kind of taken NAC by storm. I mean, we take a look at what these guys have already qualified for. They're already qualified for the Reload Elite Series land. They're already qualified for global championships later this year. And this is why they're kind of regarded as this new duo that's kind of just taken NAC over. I've been a big fan of these guys for a very long time. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see them in Major number 1. But I mean, even leading into Major number 1, it's a similar story to how they're kind of leading into Major number 2. Just so many high elimination games that I feel like these guys, even if they don't get a VR today, I can guarantee you're going to be seeing them around the 300-point mark because they are so good at finding the elims.
Yeah, Virgo has definitely been on the mind of a lot of people watching the competition over the last few weeks, especially with Shadow, who has been honestly an established player. And I'm just looking at their land finals. You know, they have 3 and 2. And the fact that Virgo, who is relatively a new competitor, he only has 6 FNCS finals, but he has 2 LAN appearances. Clearly, yes, there are so many established duos, but as far as Shadow and Virgo goes, no, they're not green, but they are definitely one of the newest teams that haven't been around that long that I think can finally put up a big fight against the bigger names in NAC.
Well, Kelly, we are ready to find out what that looks like, specifically here in the context of heat number 2. Remember, we need to pick Royale, which means we're done. We don't need to play any more Fortnite. We can just focus on next weekend, where we need to end in the top 10 consistency. Casters, take it away.
Thank you, Zeke, and that's right. You know, they broke things down, and, you know, now that we start to look at the weekend here, Jacob, the Heats are getting progressively more interesting.
Yeah, just kind of comparing it to Major 1. We had 2 of the Heats under 150 points, one kind of pulling a little bit higher. Yesterday alone, 160 plus points just to get through consistency. Really goes to show that you can leave no stone unturned in lobbies like this. It doesn't matter if the superstars that you're used to playing aren't in there or not. Nothing is guaranteed, and we're going to figure that out today with Game 1 starting now.
Heat number 2, game number 1 is now set to begin. And again, this is a really interesting heat because for the first of the heats now, we get to see teams that are qualified for globals competing here in the heat for this FNCS, which means they have the pick of the litter with drop spots, conditioning, other teams' chances potentially, and so much more here. Jacob, I think when we start looking at this competition from a bird's eye view, by the time the day is over, we're going to see some interesting things develop.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some interesting results. I think every single time we come into heat stages like this, we all have our predictions, the superstars we think will make it, but with 15 total spots up for grabs today, you almost got to guarantee a few of those will be some underdogs really trying to make a name for themselves. Calamar Canyon, triple contested, but everyone picking their separate sides. This is the top side of that mountain. They're not going deep into Latte Landing. They're just trying to get the floor loop from above. If this was an AR or pistol, you know he'd be going down. There's just too much distance for that striker to do anything.
It does happen like that, but at the end of the day, gotta win those ones, or it's gonna be a tough weekend. Either way, that's about the fastest elimination I think we've seen here on the weekend. So set your clocks, but take a look at this. What's happening on the other side of the Ukraine to be winning their fights as well. They're contested by a few kind of in the general area, but they finish this battle so fast they'll have this realisticness themselves to get coming.
Yeah, these split drops sometimes can be a little tough, depending on where the split drop actually is. But this one, very, very similar to kind of like that Latte Landing situation. Big hotel, you just try to get a little bit of that floor loop and quickly put it to use. And Krampus Louis, they were able to get both of those eliminations, like you said, relatively early. So even those uncontested drops around them are going to have no time to try to third party.
Your shadow, here's Virgo. This is the duo that was in highlight just moments ago, and for good reason. Every single FNCS we've watched Shadow and Virgo continue to push this further and further. You know, Kelly said it very, very effortlessly, very eloquently is what I should say. You know, Virgo, 2 lands in just a couple of appearances in such a short amount of time is so impressive.
Yeah, he's already guaranteed a third with EWC, just playing this major for a fourth and Fixie. They're just hiding, using that chest as bait, hook, line, and sinker. Louis, off of that contested fight win, just runs into a trap, goes down, and leaves Krampus by himself. Luckily for them, though, they already eliminated their opposition. They know nobody's there, so it's just about time.
It's actually so tough, because we were just talking about how there's a team nearby and they're unlikely to push. Well, I didn't think they were going to sit there and camp either, but
I want to get a pickaxe.
At least one good time, you know, you can't burn that one out. They're going to be very
I want that pickaxe.
Acorn Bolts, of course, is a team that is set to dominate here today. This is a team that is slow and steady, right? Never too flashy. Bolts obviously has the potential to be a fast type of player, but Acorn's someone who's got so much experience, so much tenure in these types of set lobbies. He likes to play grand game. He'll put you right in the position to succeed. Back to the action, right? Here for Wonky Land, the team's finally set the flash. Ghost is going to be the first to fall. Tank might not win the engagement against Raz.
Rezo.
This is definitely a winnable situation, though. Yeah, there goes the first knock. Numbers mean nothing when you have as much HP and shield combined, especially when Tank is just trying to heal up, using all of one chug, just trying to get full shield and HP as quick as possible, but that lead him his teammate to a 1v1, and then now it's here again, Raz versus Tank, and that's where you kind of have that mind game decision. You rush
I want Raz to win.
Like you see Tank trying to do, and this will force Raz to follow him. It will force him into a fight that hopefully he feels a little bit more confident in taking.
Look, he actually goes the other way. So they're going to opt to disengage on both sides, grab these reboot cards, and call it a day. But Raz is definitely the one to clutch up there. I think he's earned the respect indeed here. Getting to another fight, though. Stand off to Reese and Boogie right now. Pretty good as they have control of the high ground. Taking the time here to go ahead and farm up these material counts.
Not too worrisome. Golden Grove is kind of like one of those POIs where there's just different layers. You can go down underneath, inside of the buildings, a lot of loot on the outsides. So taking a straight up kind of 50-50 fight isn't going to be the easiest thing in the world if you're the one trying to force it. There's a lot of space, and that's why you see the disengagement coming through. The big question, Monster, is how much surge did those guys actually get throughout that interrogation? And now we just jump on board Day and Passion. You guys remember Day? I believe this is our FNCS champion of the past, Day. Mirror and reverse. So we're just going to see what he can pull together. You're always talking about a lot of those OGs coming back together with some of the newer players. This is a chance to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday we saw Okis pull through. There's nothing stopping someone like Mero or Day stepping up and finding good today. You have K alongside Seal. A bit of a standoff right now. This is going to go into a pure box fight here in a couple moments. The SRG duo, though, they're going to come down to the low ground and take their time right now. They've claimed a good amount of the mid-layer territory, so that extra bit of control, Cade, is going to have to be a bit careful here. You can see they're cautious to do anything further as well. They don't want to overextend and likely give their damage away here. The SRG team, though, they're just patiently waiting for an opportunity.
Yeah, that kind of puts, you know, Cade and his duo up top in a situation where if you want to fight this, you can, but you have to drop down below. You have to try to play for piece control, which kind of takes a lot of time and leaves you open.
That's what you do.
On the flip side, though, it looks like they're just going to go ahead and disengage. They don't want to take that risk, but just looking at the mini-map.
I wouldn't take the risk.
Up top, use the shockwave to try to create distance, so they might be trying to bait him out of position, so that way realize up at the top and try to land some damage.
Chilling on top. You're just gonna let him do it, so. Jump over with Yudge and Sharkman. It's an exciting team right here. This is one that obviously has had so many FNCS appearances in the past themselves. Very confident team that is familiar with the set lobby environment. It's the strategy I play here. So with a nice wide rotate here, just kind of playing into the score pretty heavily right now to make their way towards the players. Take a look at this tank. After the disengage from the last fight, just no breaks here.
Yeah, it just doesn't get any easier. Sometimes when they hear those reboots, it's a green light to go. They know at least one player has absolutely nothing in their inventory, so they're trying to use that as a big advantage. Jackson Plasma just sitting up above, crouching down, trying to hide the audio visuals while they attack from different sides. Stars ends up in the box, but only for a short second. Good damage pouring out from the duo, but they need HP, they need the elimination, else this will continue to happen. One down's gonna go through, but not enough to get the elimination. Jax Plasma, they stand 10 toes tall and get both of those eliminations off of the Wonky Light team.
Played it well, they win the fight, and it cost them a fair bit of material, so luckily for them, they'll have that zone favor here to go and get comfortable once again. And look, Jax had nothing left, by the way. 0 builds left. That's how extended and drawn out the fight was. In the end, they come out on top. Matter most. Victor V and VZ on the other side going straight to the sound and true strategy. We highlighted those mythic items that they will be battling for. It's going to be Victor V's every time with it. Queasy knows very well that Victor is his fragger. He puts all the trust in Victor to step up and handle things.
Queasy knows.
Yeah, the way they actually ended up uncontested at this POI, if you guys remember, Cole and Madden were kind of landing. It was a different variation of the map, but towards the same exact spot. And when Queasy Victor V first teamed up, they were fighting it out until Queasy and Victor V forced them to move. Cole Madden also in this lobby, landing in a triple contested fight at Calamar Canyon, something we saw early on, but shows Victor V and Queasy really earning their stripes here in this lobby. And this might be one of the only teams they really have to worry about in the sense of taking damage. Liam and Jace, they have that high ground at Lifty Lodge. It's one of the main points that you can see over the spot where Victor and Queasy are at.
Talk about Cole and Madden. You know, what's really interesting is that if they don't find success here, they are likely to try their hand back at Victor and Queasy. Now, do keep in mind, Victor and Queasy hadn't seen them at all during scrims and practice leading up to the heat, so they're really not expecting them to, come back. But you never really know if someone like Cole and Matt have a hard time. No one wants to triple contest, right? You're better off likely taking
I feel sorry
just
for
a
them.
head-to-head clash with another familiar drop. So this is going to be really important that they do well here.
We got Rogan's duo on the side, just tossing some shots in his direction, making it harder for everybody involved. Lucky's just being forced to back up, along with CRZ. Well, Matt is doing a good job of putting down pressure here, not landing